There is a truth, ancient and unshakable, that echoes through the corridors of time. The evil crafted against the innocent never vanishes into silence. It does not dissolve into the shadows. Forgotten by heaven, it lingers, it waits, it circles back. And when it returns, it does not land upon the one who bore the wound, but upon the hands that forged the weapon. You may have tasted betrayal, felt the sting of deceit, or endured the cold grip of cruelty. Perhaps it came not from strangers, but from those who were close, those who should have been a shield, yet became a sword. Their words cut deeper than any blade. Their actions broke trust in ways that seemed beyond repair. You sat in silence, tears burning your eyes, asking why the Almighty would allow such pain. Yet all the while the author of justice was writing a story far greater than the cruelty of men. The world teaches us to strike back, to answer evil with anger, to return insult for insult. But the ways of God are not like the ways of men. He whispers, "Be still," and in your stillness he moves. For he is not blind, he is not deaf, he is not indifferent. He sees the trap they set for you, and with divine irony it becomes the snare that entangles their own feet. The pit they dug for your downfall becomes the grave of their schemes. Consider the image of an arrow shot into the sky. The one who draws the bow thinks it will pierce the heart of another, yet when it misses its mark and returns, it strikes the hand that released it. Such is the justice of heaven. Evil cannot travel far without carrying within it the seed of its own destruction. What they fashioned against you was never truly yours to carry. It was destined in the wisdom of God to return upon their own heads. Does this not stir something within your heart? Does it not lift the burden of bitterness from your soul? For you need not spend your days plotting revenge, nor your nights replaying their betrayal. The judge of all creation has already decreed that vengeance is his, and when he acts, it is not in secret. It is not hidden. He makes a spectacle of evil, turning its weapons into monuments of his power. Look back at the stories of old. Pharaoh raised his hand against a people he thought powerless, only to see the waters of his own arrogance swallow him whole. Haman built gallows for the righteous, yet it was he who hung upon them. Time and again, Scripture whispers the same message. The evil they send is the evil that undoes them. So, lift your head, wipe your tears. Your task is not to chase their downfall, but to walk in faith, knowing the Almighty has already set the course. Do not let your heart grow bitter, for bitterness chains you to the very evil meant to destroy you. Instead, trust that God is weaving justice, threading it through every broken moment, until what was meant for harm becomes a testament of his deliverance. Let your enemies laugh for a moment. Let them believe their cruelty has triumphed, for the story is not yet finished. And when the final chapter is revealed, you will stand as living proof that evil cannot prosper against the child of God. Their arrows, their curses, their schemes, they all return, heavier than before, crushing the very hands that shaped them. And you will rise, not with vengeance, not with malice, but with the quiet strength of one who knows the battle was never yours, it was always his. The evil crafted against the innocent never vanishes into silence. It does not dissolve into the shadows, forgotten by heaven. It lingers, it waits, it circles back. And when it returns, it does not land upon the one who bore the wound, but upon the hands that forged the weapon. Evil has a strange arrogance. It assumes that once it has been spoken, once it has been acted out, it will accomplish its purpose and remain unseen. Those who plan evil against others think their words of slander, their schemes of betrayal, Their hidden plots will vanish into the air like smoke. But heaven has no such blindness. God's justice does not lose track of what is spoken in secret, what is whispered in shadows, or what is plotted behind closed doors. Every word of deceit, every action of cruelty, every intention to harm the innocent is recorded in the divine order of things. Evil, you see, is never wasted. It is stored, waiting for the moment when it returns to its source. This is why the psalmist declared, "They dug a pit for me, but they fell into it themselves." Evil is not a river that flows endlessly outward. It is a tide that always returns to the shore from which it came. Those who think they can destroy the righteous underestimate the wisdom of God. For the Almighty has designed creation itself in such a way that no act of evil can exist without consequence. You cannot throw poison into a well without eventually drinking of it yourself. You cannot spit venom into the wind without some of it finding its way back to your own lips. This is the nature of divine justice. And yet, how often do the innocent tremble? You may have felt it, the despair when cruelty strikes. Perhaps their words crushed your spirit, their betrayal pierced your heart, or their actions left scars upon your life. In those moments, it seems as though evil has won. The righteous suffer while the wicked celebrate. But what you do not see is the larger arc of the story, the unseen law that governs both heaven and earth. What is sown must be reaped. They sowed evil, but the soil of God's justice ensures they will harvest it themselves. Have you ever noticed that evil rarely ends with its intended target? Like a boomerang, it returns to the one who threw it. The curse they spoke over your life becomes the heaviness that hangs upon their own spirit. The plan they designed to see you fail becomes the very chain that restricts their progress. It is as though God Himself takes their weapon, bends it in His hands, and turns it back in their direction. You need not waste your nights plotting revenge, for divine justice is far more creative and thorough than any vengeance you could conceive. Let this truth comfort you. Nothing they have done has disappeared into the void. Their cruelty did not vanish into thin air. Their words of malice did not dissolve without weight. Every act of evil carries a price, and that price is paid not by the one who suffered, but by the one who initiated it. You were wounded, yes. You were bruised, yes. But you will not carry the debt. The debt belongs to them, and heaven has already written the bill. This is why you must resist bitterness. Bitterness binds you to their evil, but trust in God's justice frees you to rise above, knowing that every arrow shot against you will one day return, striking the very hand that drew the bow. You may have tasted betrayal, felt the sting of deceit, or endured the cold grip of cruelty. Perhaps it came not from strangers, but from those who were close, those who should have been a shield, yet became a sword. Their words cut deeper than any blade. Their actions broke trust in ways that seemed beyond repair. You sat in silence, tears burning your eyes, asking why the Almighty would allow such pain. Yet all the while, the author of justice was writing a story far greater than the cruelty of men. There is a unique pain that comes not from enemies, but from those we love. The betrayal of a stranger stings for a moment, but the betrayal of family, of friends, of those we trusted with our hearts, this cuts to the soul. It is one thing to endure rejection from those who never knew your worth. It is another to be wounded by those who should have cherished it. And perhaps this is your story. Perhaps you have endured the bitter taste of trust broken, of loyalty despised, of love twisted into a weapon. You gave kindness and received cruelty in return. You offered your heart, and they treated it as though it were disposable. In those moments, the question rises like fire: why would God allow this? If He is just, if He is good, why not shield us from the schemes of those closest to us? Why not expose their hearts before they strike? Why permit the innocent to walk into the snare? These questions are not sinful. They are the honest cries of a soul that has been torn. And yet, if you listen closely, there is a whisper that answers not with explanation, but with promise. The pain is not wasted. The story is not over. The betrayal is not the final word. For God has a way of turning the deepest wounds into the loudest testimonies of His power. What they meant to destroy you becomes the very soil from which your strength grows. Think of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, sold like an object, abandoned in prison. To human eyes, his story was tragedy upon tragedy. Yet, behind the scenes, the author of justice was weaving a story far greater than cruelty. The betrayal of his family became the very path that led him to the palace. What was meant for evil became the instrument of his elevation. So it is with you. The tears you shed in silence, the nights you lay awake wondering how someone so close could wound you so deeply. None of this has escaped the eye of God. While you sat in your anguish, heaven was already at work, shaping your pain into purpose. While they rejoiced in your downfall, the Almighty was laying the foundation for your vindication. They thought their betrayal was the end of your story, but it was only the beginning of God's greater plan. Do not despise the silence of God in those moments. His silence is not absence. His silence is often strategy. When He seems to allow evil its moment of triumph, it is only so that His justice may be displayed more clearly. Had Joseph never been betrayed, he would never have been positioned to save nations. Had you never walked through the valley of betrayal, you would never have known the depth of God's restoration. Your pain has a purpose. Their betrayal has a boundary. Their cruelty has an expiration date. And when the author of justice completes his story, the same evil that was designed to break you will be the very stage upon which He reveals His glory in your life. The world teaches us to strike back, to answer evil with anger, to return insult for insult. But the ways of God are not like the ways of men. He whispers, "Be still." And in your stillness He moves, for He is not blind, He is not deaf, He is not indifferent. He sees the trap they set for you, and with divine irony it becomes the snare that entangles their own feet. The pit they dug for your downfall becomes the grave of their schemes. There is a profound difference between human justice and divine justice. Human instinct tells us to retaliate. When insulted, we want to insult back. When wounded, we want to strike harder. This is the natural impulse of the flesh, to repay evil with evil and to even the score by our own strength. But the wisdom of heaven does not align with this instinct. God's way is not to call you into battle with the same weapons they used against you. Brandished weapons that seem to wound like a hilt are actually the weapons that would send insult against you. Instead, He asks you to step back, to remain still, to allow Him to act on your behalf. The command to be still is one of the hardest instructions we are ever given. Stillness feels like weakness. Silence feels like surrender. And in the face of betrayal or cruelty, everything within us cries out to respond, to prove them wrong, to make them pay. But God whispers that silence is not defeat, it is trust. Stillness is not passivity, it is power under His control. For in your restraint, you invite His justice to move freely, untainted by your attempts to take matters into your own hands. Imagine a hunter who digs a deep pit, carefully concealing it with branches and leaves, certain that you will fall into it. You may see the trap, or you may not. Yet whether you notice it or not, God has already charted your steps away from destruction. And while you walk free, it is the hunter who stumbles back and finds himself swallowed by the very pit he dug. This is not coincidence. It is divine irony. It is the justice of heaven at work. Scripture gives us countless examples of this irony. Daniel was thrown into the lion's den by envious men, yet it was those very men who later perished by the lions. The 3 Hebrew boys were cast into the fiery furnace, but the fire consumed those who stoked it. Haman built gallows for Mordecai, but he himself was hung upon them. Again and again, God allows the schemes of the wicked to collapse upon their own heads. Their evil does not evaporate, it rebounds. Their cruelty does not disappear, it circles back. This is why you need not fear what they are plotting. The whispers spoken against you in secret chambers, the lies woven into your reputation, the traps set for your downfall. None of these are beyond the watchful eye of God. He sees and he turns their designs into their undoing. Your role is not to outwit them, but to remain faithful. Let them dig, let them plan, let them laugh for a moment. Soon enough, their own hands will betray them. And in that moment, you will realize why God told you to be still. If you had rushed to retaliate, you would have become entangled in bitterness. If you had fought back on their terms, you might have lost your peace. But by standing firm in faith, you allowed God to fight in ways far more powerful than your anger could have achieved. Their trap becomes their prison. Their curse becomes their chain. Their hatred becomes their downfall. And you walk free, unscathed, because the battle was never yours to fight. It was always His. Consider the image of an arrow shot into the sky. The one who draws the bow thinks it will pierce the heart of another, yet when it misses its mark and returns, it strikes the hand that released it. Such is the justice of heaven. Evil cannot travel far without carrying within it the seed of its own destruction. What they fashioned against you was never truly yours to carry. It was destined, in the wisdom of God, to return upon their own heads. Evil is like an arrow. It is sharp, swift, and designed to wound. When someone sends it your way, their confidence grows as they imagine its impact. They think you will be pierced, that you will fall, that your strength will crumble under its weight. But what they fail to understand is that no weapon formed against a child of God has permission to prosper. It may be released, but it will not accomplish its purpose. It cannot strike you without first passing through the hands of the Almighty, and He does not permit destruction to triumph over destiny. The arrow may fly high and look unstoppable, but it is bound by the same law that governs everything in creation. What goes out returns. Just as the rain that falls from the heavens eventually returns to the clouds, so too does evil return to its sender. They think they have aimed at your heart, but the arrow is already marked for theirs. The evil they shaped is pregnant with its own consequence, and the hand that released it will one day feel its sting. This is why Scripture calls God the shield of His people. He does not always prevent the arrow from being fired. He allows the wicked their moment of triumph, their illusion of victory. But He positions Himself between you and the arrow, and in doing so He transforms its flight. What was designed to wound you becomes the very weapon that condemns them. The arrow's path circles back, guided by the unseen hand of divine justice, until it finds the one who dared to release it. Think of David standing before Goliath. The giant mocked, cursed, and threatened to destroy him. But what happened? The stone David hurled did not merely strike Goliath's forehead. It symbolized the truth that every weapon of pride eventually collapses under its own weight. Goliath's own sword, the one meant to destroy David, became the tool of his defeat. Evil cannot escape this law. Its arrogance blinds it, its confidence deceives it, and in the end, it is undone by the very force it unleashed. Perhaps you have felt the arrows of life, words meant to break you, betrayals designed to shatter you, actions calculated to crush your spirit, yet you are still here. You have scars, yes, but not destruction. And those scars are not signs of defeat, they are proof of survival. They testify that while evil was aimed at you, it did not land where they intended. God intercepted, God shielded, God redirected, and now, even as you heal, the arrow returns to its rightful owner. The great comfort in this truth is that you do not need to worry about how justice will unfold. You do not need to track the arrow's flight or wait anxiously for its impact. It is enough to know that heaven has laws no man can break, and one of those laws is that evil cannot escape its consequences. You are free from carrying the weight of their actions. What they released was never yours to bear, it belongs to them, and in the wisdom of God, it will return to them in full measure. Does this not stir something within your heart? Does it not lift the burden of bitterness from your soul? For you need not spend your days plotting revenge, nor your nights replaying their betrayal. The judge of all creation has already decreed that vengeance is his, and when he acts, it is not in secret. It is not hidden. He makes a spectacle of evil, turning its weapons into monuments of his power. There is something heavy that clings to the human heart when wronged, the desire to repay. Bitterness grows like thorns around the wound. Sleepless nights are spent imagining what could be said, what could be done, how one could repay in equal measure. Yet this endless rehearsing of revenge becomes its own prison. You think you are punishing them by holding on to the anger, but in reality, it is you who are chained. They go about their lives, while you lie awake, haunted by the scenes of betrayal. But here lies the great release. Vengeance is not yours to carry. It never was. The weight of justice rests only in the hands of the judge of all creation. He does not ask you to balance the scales, for your heart was never designed to bear the burden of vengeance. That task belongs to him, and when he acts, he does not act quietly. His justice is not whispered, it is displayed. He exposes evil in such a way that all who watch cannot deny it. He takes what was meant to shame you and makes it the very stage upon which he reveals his glory. Consider Pharaoh, who enslaved God's people and mocked his name. When judgment fell, it was not hidden in a corner. It was displayed before nations. The Red Sea did not simply drown an army, it testified to all the world that the Almighty defends his own. Or think of Nebuchadnezzar, who exalted himself in arrogance until his pride turned him into a beast of the field. The same kingdom that once bowed to his power beheld his humiliation, proving that the God of heaven humbles the mighty. And so it will be with those who wounded you. Their betrayal may have been whispered in secret, their cruelty may have been hidden behind smiles, but when God exposes and repays, it will not be done in silence. He does not merely balance the scale, he overturns it in such a way that none can deny his hand. The very weapons fashioned against you become monuments to his power. Their lies become the platform upon which your truth is exalted. Their attempts to break you become the story of how he raised you higher. This is why bitterness must leave your heart. Bitterness blinds you to the glory of what God is preparing. If you fix your eyes on revenge, you will miss the wonder of his justice. Your role is not to scheme but to rest, not to plot but to trust. To believe that when he moves in ways so complete, so undeniable, that even your enemies are forced to acknowledge his hand. Release them from your grip, for they are already in his. Do not let their betrayal become your lifelong companion. Do not let their cruelty become the echo that fills your nights. Hand it over to the one whose judgment is perfect. whose timing is flawless, whose justice is eternal. For when he acts, it will not be in whispers. It will be a spectacle of his power, a testimony that evil cannot prevail and that his children are never abandoned to injustice. Look back at the stories of old. Pharaoh raised his hand against a people he thought powerless, only to see the waters of his own arrogance swallow him whole. Haman built gallows for the righteous, yet it was he who hung upon them. Time and again, Scripture whispers the same message. The evil they send is the evil that undoes them. The Bible is not simply a record of history. It is a mirror of eternal patterns. Over and over it reveals the same truth. Evil is never victorious in the end. Its victories are temporary, its laughter is brief, its arrogance is short-lived. Those who rise in pride against God's people always write the script of their own downfall. Their cruelty becomes the stage upon which their undoing is revealed. Pharaoh, drunk on power, thought himself invincible. He enslaved, he oppressed, he crushed the innocent beneath his hand. But the same waters he mocked, the same sea he thought would trap God's people, became the grave of his army. His arrogance swallowed him whole, proving that no ruler, no power, no cruelty can stand against the will of God. The Red Sea became more than a body of water. It became a monument of divine justice. Then consider Haman, who plotted with precision, building gallows to silence the righteous. His plan was detailed, his confidence unshakable. Yet the gallows did not claim the innocent. It claimed the builder himself. What he prepared for another became the tool of his own destruction. This story is not isolated. It is a whisper of the law of heaven. The evil you send is the evil that undoes you. Even in the life of Jesus, we see the same pattern. The cross was Rome's weapon of humiliation, designed to strip him of dignity, to display his defeat before the world. But the very cross became the throne of his victory. What was meant to destroy him became the very symbol of redemption. Evil exhausted itself, and in the process revealed its own weakness. And so it is today. The cruelty you have faced, the betrayal you have endured, the traps laid in your path, they carry within them the seeds of destruction for those who sent them. Evil has no creativity. It cannot invent life. It only twists, corrupts, and destroys. But because of this, it always folds in upon itself. The trap set for you cannot hold you, for you are upheld by a hand far greater than theirs. But that same trap will not remain empty. It will consume its maker. This is why you must not lose heart. When you see the wicked prosper, when you see their lies believed, when you see their hands strong, remember the stories of old. They are not just ancient tales. They are reminders that the pattern has not changed. God has not grown weary, nor has his justice dimmed. What he did then, he will do again. Pharaohs still drown in the seas of their pride. Hamans still hang on their own gallows, and crosses still turn into crowns. Take comfort in this. Their laughter is fleeting, but your vindication is eternal. Their schemes are loud for a season, but their end is written before they begin. The same evil they send is the evil that undoes them, and you will stand as the living witness to the faithfulness of God. So we return to where we began. The evil they sent was never yours to carry. It was marked for their own undoing. You were chosen not to be crushed, but to be preserved. You were not abandoned in betrayal. You were hidden in the shadow of his wings. Their schemes are temporary. His justice is eternal. Do not waste your energy rehearsing their cruelty. Do not spend your nights plotting their downfall. Lift your head and walk free, for your vindication does not depend on your strength, but on his. The battle was never yours, it was always His. And when the final word is spoken, when the story is complete, you will stand as living proof that evil cannot prosper against the righteous. God will turn back the same evil they sent toward you, and when He does, your tears will no longer be the language of sorrow, they will be the testimony of victory.